but I'm not really good at listening to the people that I'm closest to in my life. And I think all of us are probably guilty of that. We focus on the numbers, opportunities for improvement. Not that we dehumanize them when we're in front of them, like we treat them bad. We don't really know what makes them tick and what makes them drive.
The following program features a bunch of doofuses talking about the automotive aftermarket. The stuff we, or our guests may say, do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of our peers, our sponsors, or any other associations we may have. There may be some spicy language in this show, so if you get your feelings hurt easily, you should probably just move along. So without further ado, it's time for Confessions of a Shop Owner, with your host, Mike Allen.
All right, here we are. Another month has passed, and it's time to flog Mike for his failure to follow through on all the things that he's done, or not done, I guess. Interestingly, I just listened today to the episode that I did with Todd Westerland at Vision, and I made fun of him on the episode for talking about himself in the third person, and then I just did it. So I'm just starting off on the right foot. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I do have a quick question, though.
Okay.
How long is this episode?
This particular episode, I'm going to go with 6.5 hours. Why do you ask?
Okay, I was going to say, you're going to have to give us some time if we talk about all the stuff that you haven't gotten done.
Nice. Real nice. No, the store's doing pretty good. The store in question is doing really good. It's my best store in a lot of metrics. And any of the limiting factors that are in place are all named Mike Allen. So
sure,
yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Because what I don't want you to do is take your eye off of the cash cow while we're trying to fix some of the other stuff elsewhere. Because it's easier to make something better than it is to. It's easier to give a push than it is to give a pull.
I can get behind that. So, actually, when my father decided he was going to get married to my mom, they 18 and 17 years old, and he went and told his dad, and his dad said, "It's your little red wagon. You can push it or pull it." And just one of them's easier than the other. So yeah. I don't have a clue what he meant by that, but I'm sure that it was something to do with that.
Well, my dad used to tell me all the time, an ounce of push is worth a pound of pull. I never knew what that meant either. And
yeah.
Until I was older.
All right, so I am logged into our reporting sheet on one side and QuickBooks on the other. I am prepared for my flogging, sir. Where should we begin?
Perfect. So when we ended off in February, and I know we're going to keep going back to our original goals and our original notes here. Mm-hmm. So we have the original goal of trying to get to 1.6 million, 20% net. And so the first question is how was March?
Hey, everybody. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the coaching organization I've been involved with for, over 20 years now, Elite. Elite Worldwide, they don't give you a one-size-fits-all solution. They tailor the coaching specifically to you and your shop. They pair you with an experienced coach who is either a current or a former shop owner, and they turn strategies into actual action and accountability and results. Whether it's improving your service advisor's sales, growing your shop, growing to multiple locations, they really have you covered. They've got training for all of those things. Clients of Elite really see results, higher profits, stronger teams, a better work-life balance. If you're ready to take the next step, visit eliteworldwide.com to schedule your discovery session. That's eliteworldwide.com to start working on your business rather than in it. Tell them that you heard about them on Confessions of a Shop Owner so that I get a pat on the back or maybe a box of chocolates or something. That would be awesome. Thanks. March was really good. Top line revenue wise, it was a 5 payroll month. So we had payroll on the very last day of the month. So that threw off the bottom line numbers a little bit.
Yep.
But April will reflect the gain on that. So, hang on, I'll open TechMetric as well. The best point of sale software in the industry, bar none. And I can just pull up last month.
I'm not supposed to have an opinion on that, but I do like it.
It's okay. I can have enough opinions for both of us. Let's see. So reports last month. So from TechMetric, the reporting shows 150 ROs at $771 a piece, 61.1% GP, total revenue, not counting tax, 115,000, with a little over 70,000 in GP.
Okay.
So that was, that was not quite our best month ever, but April will be our best month ever because we're almost at that number right now, and we got a week left as we record this. So,
okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about staff because I know that was kind of one of our limiting factors that we had talked about at the last meeting. And essentially what we talked about is all of your baseline numbers are pretty spot on. So, kind of the idea is how do we maximize the footprint? How do we add staff and keep all of the average numbers the same so we can maximize top line, still hold on to the GP numbers that you're currently getting and get to that $1.6 million top line number with the 20% net. Mm-hmm. So we identified that we needed to potentially add some support staff at the counter to be able to maximize some of the intake processes that we had talked about. Where are we at with adding staff?
We've done a lot. So if you recall, when I talk about my two Raleigh stores, I kind of treat them as kind of one entity in a lot of ways, and I have one shop foreman across both of them. Hillsborough Street, the store that we report for this podcast, for these calls, is the smaller store, but has borderline unlimited car count because of the location and the traffic. And so we actually transferred him to that store, and he sold his toolbox and bought a smaller triple bank toolbox so it would fit in the small store, and kind of shoehorned it in there for him. And so he's there, and we added a technician, so now there are 3 total technicians in the 3.5 bays there. We brought an advisor who's kind of an advisor assistant and paperwork assistant and estimating and intake over, also from the other store, moved in there. So essentially what we have now at Hillsborough Street is we have a selling advisor, kind of an administrative advisor, and 3 quality technicians. And that's why we're going to hit that pace for 1.6 this month. That'll be the first month we've ever had that pace.
Awesome.
We also have signed up with Hub Shop Solutions, which is software that, it's not software, it's a service that integrates with TechMetric. And through Slack, they have a webhook. And anytime one of my technicians marks a DVI complete, they are in a Slack channel and they get that notification and they build the estimate, parts, labor, everything. And so they Slack my guys within 15 minutes of the DVI being complete and saying, hey, estimate's ready to rock. And I mean, we still own the estimate. We've got to look at it and review it and make sure that it's legit before we make the outbound call. But the turn time is really improved in that capacity. So I've got kind of the administrative advisor who's being a smiling face, taking keys, checking people out, receiving parts, sending returns out, just to kind of help them with dispatch. And then I've got the sales guy who's just loving on people and building relationships all day, making sales. And that seems to have struck a really good balance. So we'll see. I mean, I know that April is going to be our best month ever. We'll see if the increase in revenue outpaces the increase in expense.
Right. And I know we talked about the last time maybe looking at the mix of tire sales that you have and trying to increase some of the tire sales out of that location, just because you do have such a great car count. Mm-hmm. And I know one of the barriers that we had there was just with John being the only person there at the counter, it was difficult for him to do a good walk around process and catch some of those things on the front end without everything going through the DVI process.
Hey there. I'm going to tell you about something that has completely transformed how I run my shop, TechMetric. As a 20-year shop owner, outdated systems used to slow us down. Everything was clunky, from check-in to estimate building to customer updates. It all felt just super inefficient. Switching to TechMetric has changed everything. With TechMetric, you get a powerful shop management system that includes DVI, quick and easy estimate building, inventory management, real-time reporting, amazing customer communication, and it's really easy for your employees to learn how to use the software. I'm talking like a one-day learning curve. On top of that, TechMetric has tons of other tools to make you an even better operator. Stuff like integrated payments with buy now, pay later options is a huge asset. Ask me how I know. And recently, they've added a CRM component with their partnership with Shop Genie, which I'm a happy Shop Genie customer already. So I'm super excited about that. Now, obviously, there are a lot of factors at play here, but I want to give you some facts about my business since I made the change to TechMetric. In September of 2020, when I switched to TechMetric, my ARO was $293. In September of 2024, we were $916. That's over 300% growth. Now, I'm not saying that TechMetric created all of that change, but I'm 100% saying that I couldn't have come this far without TechMetric. It's a key factor in our growth and success. If you're ready to level up your shop, TechMetric has everything you need: productivity, revenue, customer experience. Measure up by every measure with TechMetric. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more.
Correct. Now that we have some additional staff, have we made some of those adjustments in the intake process to try to capture some of those upfront sales?
Steven and he's my manager, Blaine is the shop foreman, and I put together a customer intake process and built out, here's what we're doing on the walk around, here's how we're taking the keys and that kind of thing. We fleshed that out and agreed that it's good to go, but we haven't rolled it out in a team-wide meeting and started to kind of inspect what we expect, I guess. I'll tell you that store sold 54 tires last month, so not a lot.
Right.
So what's that, 12 and a half sets, 13 and a half sets? So there's definitely some room for improvement. And that was on, what did I say, 150 cars?
Yeah.
So, one set per 10 cars. I'm not sure that that's taking advantage of the opportunity that's there.
Yeah. And like I said, you don't have a lot of real low hanging fruit. I'm just, we're trying to pick off the middle of the tree at this point in time. So mm-hmm. I still believe that with those numbers, and especially, with the added staff and so you're going to be able to take on more cars, that I think you have the opportunity to add a little bit more tire sales to the mix.
Absolutely.
And then just some of the easier sales before they get back to the DVI process, wiper blades, mm-hmm. bulbs, the easy stuff to sell that in the walk around inspection that always gets declined if you do it through the DVI process.
Sell it while the keys are still in the advisor's hand before it even goes back. Yeah,
that's right. So just recheck that, go through that intake process again, see if there's any touch points in there for some of those things that, that might need to be tweaked and adjusted, see if we can take advantage of that. And then your intake process, is there anything, when I say manual about it, is it just a written process, or is there some sort of a checklist that you have for the intake that the advisor can follow?
Well, let me just pull it up. So it is a bulleted list. It's a 10-point list that starts with the customer walking in the door and finishes with the key being put on the dispatch board. Okay. And, there's the greeting and information gathering process. There's the labeling of the keys. There's the client write-up. There's the walk around. There's the setting of expectations. There's some data checking, making sure that the tag and the VIN decode and match one another. have timing considerations there. That's when are they expecting their car back? When are they expecting a call? Set the expectation of them when they're going to get a call, and then documenting those expectations in the repair order, and then initial authorization for whatever they've dropped it off for, and then dispatch keys. So,
is there any physical documentation of vehicle condition?
Well, in the vehicle walk around,
so you are doing a vehicle walk around at that point in time.
We're not doing it yet, but that's part of the process that we've all agreed to. So
I got you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do when we're introducing a new process like that is to make something manual that I can check easily. And again, you kind of suffer from the same affliction that I do, is you're not in that store all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be some sort of a way for you to be able to audit, that process to make sure there is at least the attempt of it being done, and try to help them through it if it's not. But so I would take that intake sheet that you have and change your bullet points to, some open squares, give them some check boxes, laminate it, let them go out there with a checkboard and a dry erase marker, and then take a picture of it, and it goes into the intake into the check-in inspection.
Okay.
Inside of TechMetric.
First picture in the DVI is that it's been checked in completely.
That's exactly right.
Number in the top, yeah.
That's right. And that way, the answer is yes, they can pencil whip it, but they had to at least put the effort into it to lie to you about it,
Yeah. I get that. And the dudes that I've got there won't do that.
Yeah, that's right. And most of the time, it takes just as long to fill it out and, incorrectly as it would to do it. So after about the second or third time you ask them, where's the picture of the intake form, they'll just start doing the intake right. And while I think everybody has an element of money motivation to them, even the most money motivated people out there have reasons for the money being important. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where that dream sheet really helps, is you can tie the money to something tangible. And, when you do have those sit downs with them, you can bring it back. It's a humanizing process and allows us to remind them that they're working for something other than an hour's goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Copy that. Makes sense. I just gotta get comfortable breaking out of my normal headspace. And, it's like a teenager doesn't want to hear it from mom and dad, but if somebody else that they respect says the exact same thing, they receive it,
Sure.
Differently. That might not be a good example. I guess it's probably more like how I give my best to customers all day long, and I get home and the leftovers are what my family gets sometimes.
Yeah.
That's
100% of what it is. And, and that's just, and the bigger we get, the easier that is. You're in a situation with 3 stores and a lot of employees across different locations, and it's going to be difficult for you to make that personal connection without having something like that to tie back to, from time to time. So,
well, and that was part of the conversation I had with Steven today. We sat down for a while and reviewed P&Ls and that kind of thing. I'm in Raleigh way less than I'm at Garner. And it's not because I don't love you guys. It's because I trust you guys to do your thing. And I don't feel like, you need hand-holding. And I'm more heavily engaged at the big store right now because it's so far down the path of this evolution. And we haven't started down that path in the other stores. And I know that was one of my first quarter goals, was to start Rack Attack in Raleigh. And we totally have not done that. Absolutely have not done that. But I know, like, I'm going on my anniversary trip with my wife next week.
Right.
I've got faith that all 3 stores will run fine. I expect I'll get a call or 2 from one store, but not any from Raleigh. Right. So, it's not me not caring that I'm not there frequently. It's more,
it's a trust factor that you have. Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. So we have MLAPs in place. We have clear expectations. We do need to get the dream sheets done with the new staff members. and try to tie back some of their comp plan to their what they want to get out of their dream sheet?
Look, here's the deal. I like to think that I'm pretty good at running an auto repair shop. It's what I've done for 20 plus years, but I'm not good at managing a marketing budget and all the different facets of a truly well-rounded marketing plan. There's mail, there's local advertising, there's website, there's Google AdWords, there's all the different things that go into that, and it's just not what I'm good at. So what I've chosen to do is to buy myself the time to focus on what I am good at, while having someone else execute on all of those things at a way higher level than anything I could ever do. That's what turnkey auto marketing does for me. So if you feel like you could use some of that same magic, I'm going to recommend that you go to turnkeyautomarketing.com, get a free consultation, tell them that I sent you, tell them that Confessions of a Shop Owner sent you. You won't be disappointed.
I know we talked about, and I understand car count's not really an issue for you there.
I mean, it's gonna have to go up now that I've got 3 techs, right?
Well, that's what I'm looking at, is as we build the staff out, you always want the demand to be more than what you can physically handle. So I know we talked about tires, and tires is a great car count getter, because just like oil, every car needs tires. So then we talked about maybe getting some tire stacks, and I see your little guy back there. We talked about getting one of him.
Yeah.
And I know you have a really good road frontage location there, good slow moving traffic. So some temporary exterior signage might be your cheapest way through getting some of that extra car count.
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming you're still somewhere pretty close to that 2.5 to 3 hours per RO.
Yes, very close to that. So let's just see where we were. You want to talk about where I was in March, or where I am month to date in April?
Well, so March you were at 2.5 hours per RO in March, but we have 3 technicians now.
Month to date this month, we've done 408 hours, and that's across 142 repair orders. So that's 2.87 per repair order.
So we're getting pretty close to that 3. So let's just use the 3 there. So I mean, we're looking at 3 cars a day per technician. So we're looking at 9 cars a day is kind of what your max output can be. Do you have some idea? I mean, I know you can probably get a little bit more than that out, but do you know what when I say output, I mean closed out, completed. Usually we see about, to get 10, to get 10 closed out, we probably had 15 or 20 in the mill, if that makes sense,
We tend to carry about, at that store, somewhere between 10 and 20 hours over from Friday to Monday most weeks. That number is getting larger as capacity gets larger. Right now, if I look on the job board, there's 22 open repair orders with 13,000 in approved sales. So that's lower than our average repair order. So maybe we might have some swings and misses out there. At 22 is a lot of open tickets to have at that store at one time.
Gotcha.
But it's also a Thursday afternoon when we're recording this. So they'll clean out a lot tomorrow.
So I know you're a big TechMetric user, and I might be preaching something that you already know here, but I know that you've put a lot of service advisors through the master's course, and they come back with the ADS sheet that they're supposed to fill out every day. The shop dashboard inside of TechMetric, like I said, you might already know this. This is just something that I stumbled across the other day, but I've had my advisor start doing this and some of the clients, and it's worked really, really well for the sales goal to keep up with what they've sold for the day, but not necessarily what they have closed out for the day, right? So if you go to the shop dashboard and you go to where it says jobs created,
Where am I seeing jobs created?
So the top left, where it's on the toolbar where it says Shop Dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go over to the right-hand side where you can change the date.
Uh-huh.
You see right beside it where it says Jobs Posted
Oh,
plus Board.
I never look at that. I always just do job board plus posted or just job board. So jobs created.
Yep. So if you go to Jobs Create, and I'm the same way. So this might be something new. I don't know, but this is something that I found out the other day. But this works really good for the service advisors for their sales goal for the day, because this will only show you what added sales they did for the current day. So it won't show anything that was sold yesterday. It'll just show sales that were approved today. So I know you probably have a daily sales goal
Mm-hmm.
for your service advisors. So I get them to track that through this, through that shop dashboard feature right there, setting it up that way. And then at the end of the day, they have to write down what that total was and then subtract it from the daily sales goal. And whatever is left over gets added to the goal for tomorrow.
That's savage on a bad week.
Yeah.
But
So,
I get it.
but I mean, it's what has to happen, because if we're not filling that funnel every single day, we're going into a sales deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we're closing out good we're closing out good days today, we're losing sight of the fact that we're getting ready to have a bad week next week.
Yeah.
Get
that.
So that was really the whole point of that ADS sheet that Elites pushed so hard through the master's program for so long. And it's still valid. It's just really difficult to get a service advisor to manually fill that out all day. And thankfully now, through better shop management systems, we have some tools here that we can get the same result from the advisor without them physically having to write it down all day.
You have learned me something today, because I was not aware of that feature. So there you go.
Well,
Just
don't feel bad.
another way that TechMetric is amazing.
So I figured that out 3 weeks ago. So don't feel bad. I haven't. It's not like I've known about it for a year, but when I found it out, I was like, oh, that's how we're doing the ADS. So, but it's been that's a really cool little tool, because again, they'll get really hyper focused on what closed out today, and not keeping in mind that what closed out today was something they sold 3 to 5 days ago, and it just finally worked its way through.
Mm-hmm.
And we get all excited about our $10,000 day, and then we didn't sell anything today. And then we wake up tomorrow and we wonder why we have an $800 day today. So,
yeah. Well, I don't want to talk about what the jobs created for today report says. It definitely does not say 10 cars with $10,000 in pending sales and $600 in approved sales.
Yeah, it definitely does not say that, does it?
Yeah. 5% closing rate. But I mean, maybe he'll sell a bunch of that pending 10,000 tomorrow. I don't know.
And that's the thing. So some of that will roll over to tomorrow in that pending. So the car count's always going to look really high on that, but it does show you what your daily throughput is to be able to get that closed out number, right?
Oh gosh, he's got $20,000 in waiting for authorization wrapped up in 7 cars. So see how that goes. Anyway.
Yep. And that's another thing. So you have that would be another conversation there, because you do have the service that's going through and presenting estimates for you within 15 minutes. So the idea there is you get an estimate in 15 minutes, present right away. So, just you're probably able to get estimates put into the queue a lot faster now. Are we getting cars processed and estimates queued faster than they can call and present?
I don't think that. So these are not ones that he hasn't called and presented. These are ones that he's called, and for whatever reason, they haven't said yes. And
I got you.
I feel like if you allow somebody to say, I'll call you back before they make a commitment, then your closing rate tanks.
Yes.
Because I'm going to call around and price shop you without understanding, the apples to apples comparison. So, I can dig into that a little bit further in the morning.
So that does bring up a good question there. our closing ratio for the first quarter for that store is 34.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So we have done $806,000 worth of estimates. So for a lot of clients, I'm not a big fan of pushing closing percentage
Mm-hmm.
on service advisors just because it's such a manipulatable number. But you guys have a pretty solid understanding of discovered services, and you have a standard for discovered services. So in that case, I'm not worried about you guys having some conversations about improving closing percentage a little bit, with the caveat that we still need to maintain our $2,000 goal of ADS, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at that and I say, if our closing percentage went up 4%, so if it went
Well, they know
from,
that the target is 40% on close.
okay, so let's just say if it went from the 34% that it is, let's just give it 6%. So we had 806,000. Yeah, that would be another $52,000 in top line sales
Just with 6%.
with the same
So
amount of car count.
yeah.
So one of the things that I like to really do is I like to back that into the advisor pay plan, and just kind of show them what they're missing there. And especially now that you have additional staff, it should be easier to get that additional 6% because we're going to be able to have more time to present. We're going to be able to have more time to overcome objections. One of the things that we just implemented in our store, and I'm very aware that you're going to be familiar with this concept, but it did make a huge difference in a short period of time for us. I won't allow my advisors to present the sale unless they practiced it first. So now that you have two people there, I mean, before it would have been really difficult for John to practice because
Mm-hmm.
he would have been talking to himself.
Well, this episode is going to be published on Tuesday, and I know that Steven listens to them the day they come out. Steven, can you see John and Kit role playing sales calls before they actually make it? Because, man, I cannot see John doing it, but we'll see. It's worth a shot.
And I get that it's a challenge to get them to do that. Nobody likes doing role plays.
Yeah, yeah.
So the two conversations that we had internally in my personal store that really helped us get past that were, we had that conversation about the 4% of what we wrote in service if we would have actually sold it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I backed that into the pay plan and showed them, what they had left on the table. And I said, hey, do you think that maybe there's a chance that, there's a few conversations here and there that if we would have had a different way, we might have been able to sell it? And they were like, well, yeah. So we listened to a bunch of phone calls, and what I found was, again, when we start adding volume, and you're adding volume right now, what happens is the customer, we send out the inspection report through TechMetric. The customer calls back whenever they feel like calling back, and they catch us by surprise, and you're in the middle of 10 other things.
Mm-hmm.
And that service advisor is distracted, and then he tries to pull up the ticket, and he tries to gather his thoughts and get into his presentation, and it's
less effective.
just clunky, right? So what we did there was we adopted hey, listen, let me call you back real quick when I get back to my desk and I have all of my information in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and we can go through all this together. And they take a minute, they get all their stuff together. They're not allowed to send the inspection report until the estimate's complete. They have their benefits list, they have their consequences list, they have their priorities, of, this has to be sold today, items, the urgent items, and then a downsell option. And so they've already done the work there. Now when they send the inspection report out, when the client calls back in, the plan there is that if they're not already thoughtfully prepared for that particular client, that they press pause, get their stuff together, review it, and then call back when they're ready to make the presentation. And that's had an immediate impact on closing percentage for us. And now that you have some additional time there, that might be an easy way to drive some top line sales.
So you're doing that at your shop.
Mm-hmm.
How hard was it to implement that at your shop?
What we did, like any implementation, I don't want to say that it's 100%, and the 100% implementation is not attainable,
Yeah.
really with anything. I would say there was a little bit, anytime we start talking about doing role plays and stuff like that, there's pushback on the front end because nobody likes doing it.
Yeah.
Again, when we talked about I'll tell you, my service manager went on vacation, and we had kind of in our store got caught up in the rut that everybody else got caught up in, and over the last 2 months, with everything that's going on, is, oh, all the customers are broke, nobody has any money, nobody wants to buy anything, and we just started, we started drinking our own negative Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
And so when she was gone on vacation, I had to go work the counter, and not that I did anything spectacular. So this isn't a pat on the back session here, but we started, I knew that we needed to do some training with our second service advisor. And so we started doing the role plays with each other like that, just because I was there. So we had a killer week. Like, we just knocked dust. And so when she came back, she's like hyper competitive, and she was really pissed. She was like, I want to know, because it wasn't sales that closed out that were done prior to her leaving. So it's not like she had a bunch of work pent up and then it just all closed out. We sold our heinies off for 5 days. And so she came back and she was like, I want to know how you did it. Because she knows I hate working the counter. And
Just because you hate
so
doing
I told
it,
her, and she was like, I'm on board. If that's what I got to do, I'm on board. So that made it a little bit easier. Everything prior to that, it was like pulling teeth. So, I mean, it's not like this is the first time we've ever had a conversation about doing role plays. She just doesn't like to lose, and so she lost, and she doesn't want to lose again. So
competition driver. I got you.
That made it a lot easier. And then there's been, so they've done a really good job of stopping me before they get a sale that they're a little bit unsure about, or if they get that customer that they know is calling around and asking other people, they pick up the phone, they call me, we do a quick role play on it, and it's worked really, really well.
Good.
And I know you can't do that with everything, but if you can get a little bit of that implemented, and especially since you have two of them there and Steven's there from time to time, it again, if you just pick up 4%.
Well, I mean, between the two advisors and Steven and Blaine and myself, I mean, there's an opportunity to be able to have those conversations and those practice calls if they are willing to do it, right? If they believe in the value of it.
So when we were at the pro service meeting for Elite, which is our peer group with Elite Worldwide in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a couple weeks ago, that was one of the topics that they brought in from an outside perspective was phone skills. And one of the things that he brought up was the exercise that we just did, which I had already done, which is what is your total written sales? What is your closing percentage? If you increase your closing percentage X amount, how much would that drive to your top line revenue? And so, but it just drove it home. You know what I mean? You hear the same, all this stuff, but you hear somebody else say it, and we're the same way as our employees, right? Mm-hmm. So we did that, and that was another thing that kind of clicked there. And we did that our topic was phone call reviews, and so we all had to play our phone calls. And so we came back and got pretty hot and heavy on doing phone call reviews again, and again picked up a lot of that focus. Just over the last couple of weeks has reignited the counter.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but every time car count is down, every time closing rate is down, every time sales are down, if you go listen to the phones, you'll hear why.
Yeah.
It sucks. If your marketing is in place and it works, phones are ringing. You guys are just screwing it up.
Yeah.
And I was the worst offender of them all in that capacity. This week I had to write it. We were having a really active morning sales meeting, and where I sit, I can see the advisor pit and the front door. it was 7:30 and they were having a really in-depth breakdown of a role play that we had done. I saw a customer walk up. So I just hopped up and went out and unlocked the door and turned the lights on and welcomed him in. And I started writing him up, and he was in for a vibration concern. And I'm like, look, we are never, ever, 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 ever going to write up an NVH concern without test driving with the customer to duplicate the concern. And so I wrote him up, and I went out to the car and got the mileage and the tag and everything. Got him
Got his
back
keys
in.
and sent him on his way.
Yes, I did. And Xander walked up right as the door was closed and said, "Hey, I got the tech on the way up to go ride with him right now," and just stared at me because he fucking knew what I did. And so I was definitely feeling a little convicted about not practicing what I preach. I'm sorry, that was a tangent. I apologize, but
No, but I mean, I like those moments too. I don't work the counter very often, but I am really bad at, a lot of that little, practicing what you preach on some of the little stuff like that. But honestly, and Mike, you're good enough at self-deprecation because I've been around you long enough that I know that. So, but use those opportunities, to let them critique you, because that proves now that they know the process, right?
yeah.
A lot of times nobody likes the feedback, self-feedback, right?
Yeah.
Or third-party feedback on themselves. But every now and again, I'll take calls for myself and get them to, do call reviews on me, because the idea is it doesn't matter who the call review is on. It's a teachable moment, right? So
Yeah.
I make mistakes on phone calls just like they do. And, every now and then it's good for them to return fire and shoot it back at me sometimes,
For sure. Sweet. What else you got, man?
Well, what is going to be our target? And I know we're talking about March and April, at the end of April. So what is our target for April in sales, and what is our target for May?
I think 135 in April. May. How many working days we got in May? There's a holiday in May, right? Is there a major holiday in May?
You don't believe in holidays, Mike. Your people work 7 days a week.
Come on, man. Not at this store. At this store, we're still humans. So there's 22 working days, unless there's one of those Monday holidays that I can't remember.
So we'll count it 21.
Okay. So I think if we're looking for 9 hours per tech per day, we got 3 techs, right?
Yep.
So 9 times, I think we're at 285 per hour right now, times 3 times 21. Holy shit, that's $161,000. I don't know if we're going to get to 161, but I think 145 is a good number. I mean, the 1.6 pace is 133 a month. And I think, that's got to be the low goal right now with the crew that we've got, is the 1.6 pace.
I like 150.
I think 150 is a fair number.
You're coming into AC season.
We're here, baby. Finally got that store 1234YF machine last month. Been dragging my feet forever.
They print money, don't they?
Hopefully. We'll see.
I love them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a 135 pace for this month. We got a 150 goal for next month. What do you need to do? So we know we need to put a little bit of focus on tires. We know we need to do some temporary signage that you can put out there to maximize the ability for car count through your throughput traffic.
Yeah.
We know that we need to.
I feel like if I got a waving arm tube man, that I might get some hate mail from the neighborhood for that.
Probably so.
But some flag signs that we take in every
classy temporary signage. Classy temporary signage, Mike.
Classy temporary signage. Got it.
You've got your intake form that we're going to work on for the consistency of the intake. We're going to do some role play practice. Do you have a particular dollar size of an estimate that you would like them to role play?
Well, our average written repair order is around $2,000. So that's kind of where it sits.
So anything $2,000 or more, you want them to role play it?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So role play estimates 2,000 or more.
You got to do the
We're
dream
looking
sheet.
for a 40% close ratio next month while also maintaining our $2,000 discovered services.
So that would be an $800 average repair order, right? But month to date they're at $792 with a 35% close ratio. So maybe the average written repair order is higher than I thought it was. So
yes, I mean these aren't unrealistic numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, look at it this way: if you shoot for 40% close ratio and you wind up at 38, you're still at a net gain of 3%.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll snap our fingers and try to get the next 2%.
Copy all. I like it. I think that's a good list, sir.
So that covers the numbers, and then get your dream sheets done.
I got it written down. You've only been harping on me about that for 3 months, so I got you, boo-boo.
All right. By the 6th month, when it hasn't been done, we'll have to start playing a drinking game about the listeners have to take a shot for every single month that you haven't got your dream sheets done yet.
I'm going to be posting online, hey, guys, I'm going to do the dream sheets today. And they're going to be like, no, don't do it. We're drinking tonight. All right. So, we were ASTA management and everything. We were together today. We went and toured the convention center in downtown Raleigh, which is where we're having the expo this year. It is so much better than anything we've ever done. It's going to be so awesome. And we were reviewing classes, and Elite's got some awesome classes, and you've got a couple of classes. So I'm excited about sending some of my people to that. Do you know off the top of your head what some of those classes are? So do you want to toot the horn or anything like that?
Yeah, so I know what my class is. So we're calling it the Shop Owner Silver Bullet series for mine. So this is essentially what we're going to be doing is covering the financial rules of thumb on the the P&L KPIs, and then some of the the general shop management system KPIs that we should be looking at. So I know that, man, the first couple years that I was in business, you get the P&L. I was not new to business when I started my business, but you don't know the industry standards for stuff, right? And so a lot of our shop owners out there have no idea because they've never looked at a P&L.
So great class for shop owners that are just getting out of the shop and starting to work on the business.
Yeah.
Or that are just opening and want to start it off the right way.
Yep. And I mean, once I learned those things and I was able to look at the end of the month and go, man, my payroll is 48% of my overall sales. No wonder I'm not making any money. So some of those silver bullets there, as far as, what are the rules of thumb? What are the guardrails? Where do we need to be to have a chance to be successful? Going through those, how to build a break even, so we can create goals, because everything starts with the break even, and being able to get past our overhead. So that's really what my class is about. I know that we got some great classes between Darren and Tom and Sabrina and some of the other elite team as well. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to speak on what their courses are because I'm not 100% sure what they're.
Well, Sabrina's definitely doing an advisor class. Was submitted. Darren's got a couple of owner classes that were submitted. I think one was him and one was him and Joe maybe. Yeah. But there were 4 or 5 classes that y'all submitted, so I'm excited about it. And man, this is going to be such a killer facility. And I mean, you've been to downtown Raleigh plenty, but it's I
love ASTA every single year. It's one of my favorite events, and I'm not just saying that because it's so near and dear to you. I really do enjoy it. And I've gone as a guest every single year, except for this year. So this is the first time I've ever, done any type of presenting or working. I've always just gone to enjoy it. Yeah. But I mean, the content's always great. The turnout's always fantastic. if you guys are, if you guys are on the fence in the industry about, coming to trade shows or coming to training events, and whether there is ROI on it, we shut our shop down and take everybody. And it sucks. I mean, it does. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say it's a fun paycheck to write for those 3 days, but we always get so much out of it.
Yeah,
the learning that we get out of it is incredible. The morale boost that everybody gets to be able to go and do those things as a team and a group is incredible. And, and we live inside of our own little fishbowl, so much. It's nice to get out there and see that, there's other people out there that are trying to do things the same way that we are, and pick up those one or two little nuggets, whether it's the technician that picks up the one or two little things that they're going to take back and not struggle with, or the advisor that picks up the one or two things. And it doesn't matter what event I go to, even at the, even with all the stuff that I get saturated with on a day-to-day basis, I still pick up, I sit in on the classes and I get stuff, on the owner side and on the advisor side. So it's a great event. Always have great trainers there. The participation with the attendees is always phenomenal. It's always well run and clean and orderly. So you guys.
Well, and I'll also tell you that can confirm I inspected today, personally, a quality assurance inspection, the hotel lobby bar, really good whiskey selection. So
that's always a plus too.
All right, man. Well, thanks for the conversation. I appreciate it. And I'm sure that we'll talk again in a couple of weeks for the April report.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goodbye.